lesson is on adding and subtracting rational numbers, most specifically fractions and mixed numbers. Here's what you need to know. A lot of this in the beginning might be review. If they have common denominators, keep the denominator the same. Add or subtract the numerators and then simplify. For example, 1/8 plus 5/8 equals, I added my numerators, 6, I kept my denominator the same, 8, and then I simplified it, 3/4. Okay, if we have different denominators, then we want to first write equivalent fractions, which means they need a common denominator. So you write them with the least common denominator. We've already done that. Then we keep the denominator and we add or subtract the new numerators and we simplify. Here we go. 4/5 plus 2/3. I always write them vertically like this so I can convert them in this nice line. So 4/5 becomes, they have a common denominator of 15, 5 times 3, 4 times 3, 3 times 5, 2 times 5, and then I'm going to add my numerators, 12 plus 10, which is 22, over the same denominator of 15, and then I need to simplify it. 22 over 15 is an improper fraction, so 15 goes into 22 one time. It's my whole number, and then what's left over is 7, and I put it over my denominator. There we go. All right, ready? Adding and subtracting mixed numbers. This is where we sometimes get a little bit confused. So the first thing I want to do, if they have the same denominator, is I'm going to add the fractions, the fraction part of the mixed numbers. Then I'm going to write their sum of difference as mixed numbers. Okay, so if it's an improper fraction, I want to make it into a mixed number. If it's not, you leave it as a fraction. Then I add the whole number second, and that's because if my fraction part gave me another whole number, I want to make sure I add it in. Finally, I simplify. So here's my example. 2 3/4 plus 4 3/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is add my fractions, and I gave them, they already have common denominators, so 3 plus 3 is 6 over 4, because they keep their same denominator, gives me 6/4, which becomes 1 2/4. From there, I'm going to add my whole numbers, so 2 plus 4 is 6, and then I'm going to add that to my mixed number I came up with for my fractions, so 6 plus 1 is 7 2/3. And that reduces even more to 7 1/2. What about if they have different denominators? Well, our first step is to write equivalent fractions with a least common denominator. Then we're going to add and subtract the fractions, write the sum or difference as a mixed number, add and subtract the whole numbers, and simplify, aka do exactly what we did the first time. So, my camera's all over the place right now. So we have 4 1/4 plus 3 2/3. I gave them a common denominator of 12, 4 and 3. 4 times 3 is 12, 1 times 3 is 3, 3 times 4 is 12, 2 times 4 is 8. Then I added up my fractions, so I did 3 plus 8 is 11/12. Then I added my whole numbers, 3 plus 4 is 7, so I have 7 11/12. If this number had gone bigger than 12, I would have had to have made it into a mixed number and added the new whole number to that. There's one more scenario that can happen though, and that happens with subtraction of mixed numbers. So what about in this example? I have 60 minus 23 and 5/12. Okay, so I want to follow my directions, but I don't have a denominator here, so what can I do? Well, I have to rewrite 60 as a mixed number. I want the denominator to be a 12, so I'm going to steal one of these wholes, and instead of 60, I'm going to have 59 left. And then my last whole, I want to have a denominator of 12, and it has to be equal to 1, so my numerator is going to be 12 too. 12 over 12 is 1, right? So if I added that 1 to that, it would bring me back up to my 60. But I can break 60 down into 60 can become 59 12/12. So 59 12/12 minus 23 5/12. So 12 minus 5 is going to be 7. Keep the same denominator of 12. And then I'm going to do my whole numbers. 59 minus 23. 9 minus 3 is 6. And 5 minus 2 is 3. I did not leave myself enough room. But my final answer would be 36 and 7/12. And 7 is a prime number, so I know that's simplified. If it wasn't, I'd have to simplify my fraction. Okay, what about if for subtraction I have two mixed numbers, but my number I'm subtracting on top isn't big enough to subtract? Okay, so I'm going to start with my fractions. 4 minus 6. Well, I don't want to go into the negative. So what can I do to make sure that I have enough here? Oh, I can borrow from here just like we did before. So instead, I'm going to cross this off and I'm going to write 27. And then I'm going to add 10 tenths to this. 10 tenths plus 4 tenths gives me 14 tenths. Now I can do 14 minus 6 equals 10 is going to stay my denominator. 27 minus 17 is 10. And then I'm going to simplify this fraction even more. And I will get 10 and 4/5. All right, that's everything you need to know for adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Get to work.